Hello, classmates.
I'm teacher Zhang Xuezhong from Guangxi Financial Vocational College.
Welcome to the class on Python, Financial Basics. In our last lesson, we studied comparison operators. Today, we will delve into logical operators in numerical operations. First, let's look at a case. Zhao Li. Annual taxable income last year was 50,000 yuan. According to the personal income tax calculation table, which tax bracket does Zhao Li belong to? By judging, we know that Zhao Li applies a 10% tax rate because her annual taxable income is between 36,000 yuan and
144,000.
Translated into logical language, it is that 50,000 yuan is greater than 36,000 yuan and less than
144,000.
To program such logic. Logical operators need to be used. Logical operators are used to represent the logical thinking of and, or, and not in our daily communication. The corresponding operators are and, or, and not. Similar to comparison operators, the result of logical operations is a Boolean value, either true or false. First, let's look at the AND logic. The operator is and the logical expression is x and y. It determines whether both x and y are logically true. When both x and y are true, it returns true. Otherwise, it returns false. For example, set 4 variables a, b, c, and dA is equal to 3 is greater than 2. Assign the comparison result of 3 is greater than 2 to a. B is equal to 3 is less than 5. Assign the comparison result of 3 is less than 5 to B. C is equal to 3 is less than 2. Assign the comparison result of 3 is less than 2 to C. And D is equal to 3 is greater than 5. Assign the comparison result of 3 is greater than 5 to D. We output A, B, C, and D respectively, and can see that the returned results are true, true, false, and false. So, the meaning of the code A and B is that both A and B are true. If both are true, the result should be true. When this line of code is executed, the output will be true. The meaning of code A and C is are both A and C true? The result of combining true and false should be false. Outputting this line of code will result in false. The meaning of code C and D is, are both C and D true? The result of false and false should be false. Outputting this line of code will result in false. To summarize, the logical operator and is used to determine whether both conditions are true. Next, let's learn the second logic, the OR logic. The operator is OR, and the logical expression is X or Y. As the name suggests, if either X or Y is true, the result is true. Otherwise, the result is false. Continuing with the previous case, the meaning of code A or B is there a truth in A or B? If there is a truth or the result is true, then output this line of code, and the result will be true. Similarly, when we output the code results of A or C and C or D, we can see that only when both are false will false be. Output. Lastly, let's look at the negation logic. where the operator is not and the logical expression is not x. When x is true, it returns false. When x is false, it returns true. The meaning of the code not A is not A, because the result of A is true. When this line of code is output, the result is false. Similarly, the meaning of the code not C is not C because the result of C is false. When this line of code is executed, the result is true. Next, let's practice the case at the beginning. Please use the logical operator and to determine whether Xiaoli taxable income falls within the 10% tax bracket. Create a variable named individual tax receivable taxable income with a value of 50,000. Check whether the individual income tax is greater than 36,000 and less than
144,000.
The code is individual income tax greater than 36,000 and individual income tax less
144,000.
Outputting this result. By outputting this result, we can see that it is true. In the previous logical operations, we have been using Boolean values, with only two values true and false for operations. Next, we will learn about a special case when logical operations involve integer and floating point values. The following principles apply. The AND operation, with the logical expression being x and y, the logic of the operation is, if x is 0, then return 0. If x is not 0, then return y. For example, if 0 and 10 are input, the result should be 0. Similarly, if 0 and 0 are input, the result is also 0. Output 10 and 20. The first number 10 is not 0, so the result should return the second number 20. Similarly, if you output 10 and 0, the result will also return the second number 0. We run the program to see if the results are consistent with our judgment or operation, logical expression x or y. The logic of the operation is if x is not 0, then return x. If x is 0, then return y. For example, if the input is 10 or 20, the output should be 10. Similarly, if the input is 10 or 0, the output should also be 10. Output 0 or 10, since the first number is 0, the result returns the second number, which is 10. The NOT operation, represented by the logical expression not x. The logic of the operation is when x is 0, return true. When x is not 0, return false. Output not 0. Well, no, the result should be true. And output any other non-zero number, such as, if it is not 1 or not 10, the result should be false. Okay, Let's summarize logical operators. Logical operators make logical judgments on two values, involving three types of logic and, or, and not. The results of the judgment are only two, true or false. Logical operations are widely used in programming for financial analysis. Please practice more after class to understand the logic of the operations and lay the foundation for future comprehensive application. That is it for today's class. See you next time.